started a podcast. Welcome. So we love doing live streams and talking to people, and we got comments and questions asking if we do a podcast. So here we are.
Yeah, people got tired of us going off on tangents on the live streams. It's just like, I just want you to answer my question.
No, I think they actually liked the tangent so much
true.
that's
what. Let's go with that.
I'm telling myself that. So I'm Sam. Kind of do marketing stuff. Like to drive cars on tracks and work for Anovia here. What about you, Gels?
Yeah, so I'm Gels. I am one of the, again, marketing personality and also part-time wheel designer for Anovia as well. So have a lot of hands in a lot of the designs for Anovia, as well as marketing out to you guys, and do a lot of collaboration when we want to bring people on board as part of the brand and stuff like that. So probably talked with a couple people out there that be like, hey, we like what you do. You want some wheels? Things like that. But most of all, we're just here to have a good time and make dope wheels. So.
Which we're doing.
Yeah.
Well, we don't have a script, but we have an outline to try to knock it off on tangents, but we're going to go off on tangents, and Josh is going to have a lot of fun editing this for us.
Right.
So.
I feel like that's how all good podcasts start, right?
Yeah, I think so. That makes sense. So what's the topic today, Gels?
Yeah, so today, to kind of open everything up, I think, I just went through this. I think a lot of people are starting to go through this. It's a crazy market right now when it comes to vehicles, specifically used vehicles. So we wanted to just kind of talk about, how to effectively buy a used car, especially in 2021 with everything going on.
It's crazy right now.
It is.
Prices, I think prices are starting to normalize a little bit.
Yeah.
But
I think the seasons really do have an impact on that. Obviously, like spring, summer, like you're super busy.
Gosh. Yeah.
People trying to buy things. Winter, everyone's trying to ditch things. And then, kind of throughout those winter months, it really tends to kind of slow down a little bit. Because
Alex is just judging us. He just walked by right now.
Yeah, he'll do that. During like the winter months and stuff like that, I think people are either storing their cars or they're kind of working on it.
I know, I'm jealous of people down south who don't have winter, because you can kind of like drive your car whenever and work on whenever. And we have seasons for certain cars being expensive too. So like 4-wheel drive vehicles get very expensive in the winter when you want one. And then fun cars are very expensive in the spring and summer when you want to drive those. So
it's true, because it's like, I see it happen every year. I'm guilty of it too, which I guess we'll talk about coming up here. But
greedy.
It's like after the first snowfall up here, it's like, oh shit, I need like a daily or like a winter beater, and those like $500 winter beaters, which I don't even know if that's a thing anymore. They're like $2,000 winter beaters now, because either they're not available or people know that people are looking for something just for the winter, and they jack up the prices. But yeah, no, it's definitely seasonal driven.
Oh yeah.
But yeah.
So we're talking about buying these cars.
Yes.
And how to do it well with this current climate. Before we do that, we got to talk about our horror stories. Yeah. Everyone has them.
Everyone has them. I got a couple of them. Friggin' recently, apparently, too. I've had a bad streak with, like, dailies.
Yep.
So...
Yeah, well, okay, let's also preface that the selection of dailies hasn't been, like, the most reliable outcome. Like, the outcome you knew could happen.
I mean... Yeah, but I didn't think it was going to happen that fast.
That's true.
Yeah.
They were accelerated.
Yeah, so, I don't know. You wanna go first?
So I haven't had anything catastrophic happen to me. I've made some dumb decisions buying used cars. Like, honestly, the worst thing that happened is probably, actually, I do have one. This is kind of a horror story in the process of buying it. So the first car that I went to spend my own money on, because my parents were nice enough and they bought my sister and I a shared Neon, was like our first car. And then when I went to buy my first car, I was like, I need something sweet, like really cool. And I ended up buying a 1998 Acura Integra.
Okay.
It was LS, so it was red. It was super cool. But when I went to go buy it at the dealership, took it for a test drive, my buddy came with me who had a blue Integra, it was a GSR with the blades. Like, that thing was really cool. And we were test driving it, and Acura has this awesome thing where the doors basically like auto lock all the time. So I didn't know this. He should have known this. So we go to a parking lot, like go for the test drive, go to the parking lot, stop, pop the hood. Honestly, at this point, I was not mechanically inclined or knew anything about cars. He didn't either. I think we just popped it to see if like the engine was still there.
Like, yeah, it looks good.
Yeah, like, okay, yep, did the man thing, it's good.
Yeah.
So we popped the hood, and we're both outside the car, and the doors were shut, and the windows were up, and the car was on, and the doors auto-locked.
Oh
and we locked the keys in the car with it running on the test drive. So I had to call the dealership. The guy showed up, got it unlocked. And at this point, I was like, man, I should probably buy this car because I felt bad. But I also wanted it. And I have this horrible, horrible issue where I know what I want and I buy with my heart and not my head.
Yeah.
So I bought the car, but when I was buying, right before I bought it, they go, oh, by the way, we should tell you this has been in an accident. And this is like before Carfax was a like easily attainable thing. There was internet. I'm not that old. He goes, oh yeah, so there was a front end accident and popped the hood, and now I would call them like booger welds. Like, yeah, the front core support was like glued with weld, like the rod, like basically used to glue it together. So it was pretty bad. I bought the car and it worked, but yeah, it was
probably not ideal. Yeah.
No, looking back on it, that was really stupid. I shouldn't have done that. But how about you? You have better horror stories. I've had.
Yeah, so I guess the first one, honestly, for as long as I owned the car, wasn't terrible. I kind of knew what I was getting myself into. So it was back in high school. I had my Mitsubishi Eclipse. I was like, I don't want to drive this thing during winter.
Yep.
I'm like, I was getting ready to go off to college. I'm like, I need just like a daily kind of thing. There was a guy who was a bit older in my high school that had this car, and when I remember him having it, it was like really, really nice.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, it just showed up at like the dealership a little south of our town, up in northern Wisconsin. My mom was looking for a new truck at the time. She bought it from that dealership, and we went to pick it up. I was like, "Yo, that's the car." It was a '95 BMW 325i. It was an E36, black 4-door manual.
Oh, that's cool.
I was like, let's go.
You're about that life.
Yeah, like what is it doing here? And I noticed it was like kind of a little more beat up than I remember. I think it was like made contact with like a fire hydrant or something at some point. Needless to say,
made contact with a fire hydrant.
Yeah, the driver's side the passenger side like fender was just like caved in on the bottom. I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
Needless to say, car was in worse condition than I remember it being when he was in high school. But I asked him about it. I was like, yo, what's up with the BMW? Like, we took it out on trade. I don't really know what we're going to do. This is like small town Wisconsin.
So they're not a BMW.
Like northern Wisconsin. It's Chevy and Dodge.
Oh, America country.
Trucks only.
Truck stuff.
Yeah, if you're getting anything other than truck, it's like an SUV or a Ford Escort, right? And I'm like, they wanted nothing to do. They're like, honestly, if you give us $900, it's yours.
Holy. That seems like a deal.
All right, awesome. We took it for a test drive. First sign, I went to turn the key and it just spun.
Like the ignition.
Yeah, they're like, oh yeah, it's just a safety feature. I was like, oh, okay.
German car.
BMW before,
ultimate driving.
And the guy got it started. I was like, oh, okay, it's just a weird. You gotta push it in a little bit. I'm like, whatever.
Yeah.
And so I did it on the test drive. I was like, okay, not bad. It was like I think I got 198,000 miles on this car. I'm like, for $900. For friggin' 6-cylinder rear-wheel drive manual BMW, I'll take it. I ran that car for about 5 years. About 3 months.
Okay. Yeah. Hold on. If we're done with horror stories,
so that's what I mean.
Yeah. Okay.
That this is the best scenario, right? But within those 5 years, right, it was a little rough.
Yeah.
I mean, it is about a $900 car you would expect, especially BMW.
Yep.
First things first, that safety feature or security feature, not a feature. That lock cylinder was completely busted. We had to get a new one from Germany because a month into ownership, I just couldn't start the car anymore.
Like it would just spin for you?
It would just spin. So we had to contact BMW in Germany. We had to send out the title.
I suppose.
Our IDs.
Yeah.
I think a birth certificate.
Oh my Lord.
Proof of ownership, the keys, and a whole bunch of other stuff. It was $300. They made a new lock cylinder, sent it over. I don't know if that was what normally you have to do, but I'm like.
I mean, Germans are pretty thorough with stuff. They're
this is what you need to have. Yeah, I'm 17. I'm like, this is what the freaking auto shops tell me we have to do.
You're probably just just order one on eBay.
That's what I thought. And they're like, well, no, BMW. I'm like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
Knowing now, I probably could have just went and grabbed one from somewhere. Either way.
Or just rigged it. Yeah. Just connect two wires and start.
So, and then this other weird issue started where it wouldn't start. It wouldn't turn over at all. But if I kind of rolled it a little bit and popped the clutch, then the starter would engage. I'm like, okay, maybe the starter's just going out.
Oh.
No. I replaced batteries, alternators, starters, or cleaned cables off. I still to this day don't know what it was. But every now and then it just would not kick over. So like I owned this car for a long time.
Yeah.
And like when I went to college with it, like we'd like go grab Taco Bell. I'm like, all right guys, hold on. I'm like, I get up and start pushing the car. And they're like, what the hell's going on? Like I out of the car, like hop in, it's like, and like it starts up. And I'm like, yeah, that's what you gotta do sometimes. I remember I was working when we moved to Green Bay too. I had the car and it was on its last legs. It was over well over 200,000 miles at this point. It was leaking oil. It was burning coolant. At one time, like the water pump actually like exploded on me on my way back to school one time, dead of winter. Complete like fog, like out, like smoke out, like like blue, real bad. And I could not see anything. Cars shut off. I'm on a bridge. I'm like, I'm dying. This is where
this is it.
A lot of issues, a lot of crazy things happening. But yeah, the one that did it is just like it just wouldn't start all the time, and could not track it down. I had friends of mine look at it. I had people who are very mechanically inclined looking at it. Like, dude, I have no idea. It's some weird electrical issue. What I think it was something with whatever security system was in that car was just faulty. Yeah, and it was going out, and it would lock everything out, which was super weird. But yeah, I just remember when I was working I got my design job in Green Bay. And I'd like take that car into work. I'd go like leave for lunch or leave for the day, and then everyone's like getting in there like nice cars and stuff like that. I'm in my like I'm in my shit box. Yeah, I'm in my shit box. I'm like, all right, good, have a good day, guys. And like I specifically remember getting called in and they're like, so are we paying you enough?
You're like, no.
I was like, what? And they're like, well, we just see the car that you're driving and how you have to start it all the time. And I'm like, I know. Like, it's fine. Like, I know what it is. I just don't want to go buy a different car right now. I have it. It works. But, and then it was kind of like after that winter, I'm like, I can't do this.
This is shameful.
Yeah, I can't do this anymore.
We probably should talk about our own cars, but Brent's situation was really funny.
Yeah, his car. What is it? It won't hot start.
Yeah, I don't know. It was just like at some point it wouldn't start, and it was a fuel pump, so it has a high pressure fuel pump, so it was really expensive. And I remember I was standing in the bullpen looking out the window, and I was watching him push his own car to push start it, and he jumped in and popped the clutch.
That's what I would have to do every time.
I was like, what a way to live. Like,
I did that for 5 years.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's a good workout probably.
Yeah, I was thin back then. I had some leg muscles.
You got the leg
you know how much a 95 325i sedan weighs? It ain't light. Especially when you had to push it uphill. Because like what would happen is like I'd let it roll. I'd always park it on an incline. There was a point where I was debating on just like bringing like Rhino ramps with me and just parking it on ramps so that way I could just roll it off the ramps if I needed to.
Let it go.
And the worst part is like if it was in winter or like if it went down a hill and it was like icy and it wouldn't like kick it over enough or it was like really cold.
Traction to it.
It was like really cold, so you needed like normally crank it longer.
Yeah.
And then you'd have to like push it back up the hill and do it again or multiple times. I remember like multiple times having to do that to even go home.
That's terrible.
I don't know why I put myself through that. I was just really stubborn apparently.
I like how Josh is just in the corner geeking right now.
I guess the only other one that I have from a car that I bought, so basically just ditched the E36. I think I literally like
did you go from the E36 to this next car that I know you're going to talk about?
Pretty much, yeah.
Wow, that sucks.
Yeah, I know. It is a bad streak.
Yeah.
But granted, like I said, $900, 5 years, decent. So I literally had to limp that car home. I'm pretty sure it like died. It was like a 3.5 hour drive home.
Oh my God.
And I had Maggie, my wife, behind me the whole way in her Jeep. I'm like, if I might break down.
Oh, dude.
And if it breaks down, I'm leaving it there.
Also,
wherever it lands,
I think
that's where
we should make sure in the podcast let everyone know that you love Jeeps.
I absolutely despise fucking Jeeps.
But Jeep could have saved your life, Gels.
I would have walked. No, that's a story for a different time. But yeah, I literally had her follow me home. I'm like, if I break down, I'm hopping in a Jeep. We're forgetting it's there. I'm setting it on fire.
Set it fire. Just take the plates off, scratch the bed. Like, all right.
Yep, just let her go. But yeah, I just basically parked it along our one shop at home and let it die, and I think someone grabbed it for like demo derby or something like that. So RIP to that car.
To send that car.
Yeah, right. Send it out in blaze of glory. But yeah, so I kind of borrowed one of my parents' car for just like the winter, and then like the next year I was like, okay, I'm gonna save up just to get like something a little more reliable. So I bought an Outback.
Why do you? Oh, all right. So, like Subaru. Okay, here's what I don't understand. Subaru, I remember I was growing up, everyone was like, these things are bulletproof. Like,
Yeah.
they last forever.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, like, I always want a Subaru. Like, they're going to last forever. These are great. These are good. These are great. And then all of a sudden I realized that, like, the second you, like, seem to modify anything on them, it's just like, I sense a modification, head gasket. No more. No, I was kidding. It's an overplayed joke, but... Yeah, I remember growing up, I was told, like, these are the most reliable vehicles ever.
Like, they're the safest, they're the most reliable.
They'll get you anywhere, all-wheel drive.
Yeah. And so the thing was like, listen, I don't know, I always kind of wanted an Outback for, like, a daily. I'm like, if I can find, like, a cheaper Outback, right, I'm going to snag it. It's a wagon. I do a lot of, like, radio control stuff. I can fit my planes in there.
Yep.
Like, it's all-wheel drive. It's practical.
Was it manual?
No, it was automatic. So I found...
Did they make manual Outbacks?
I don't know if they did or not.
I don't know either.
That
seems like way too fun. They would know.
Yeah, that would have been really fun. But yeah, so I was like searching around. It was like September. I actually like just started here, and I'm like, I'm gonna need daily. So I had like $1,500 to spend. I'm like, all right, $1,500. I'm gonna go find a nice, like, it's just a solid daily winter beer car.
Yeah.
And I found one on Facebook Marketplace. Finally, because at the same time it was like kind of getting later in that season where it's like everyone was scooping them up.
Yep.
I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go check this thing out. I was like, I have it. I'm gonna go check it out. It looked like I took it for a drive. Everything seemed pretty good. The guy basically was like, oh yeah, I bought it for my kid. It doesn't have AC. Like,
and you're like, oh, it's the winter. It doesn't matter.
Like, it's a 2004. I'm like, it's a little bit rusty. I'm like, as expected.
Yeah.
Wisconsin car. It's got like 140,000 miles on it. I'm like, but he's like, oh yeah, I bought it for my kid. He plays football in the summer, doesn't have AC. He's like, Dad, I'm dying. He's like, all right, we're just gonna sell it and we got something with AC. So I'm like, you know what, dude, I'll take it. He had a bunch of paperwork. They just had all the head gaskets redone, the valve cover gaskets were replaced, new spark plugs. They literally just had like a fresh, pretty much like overhaul to it. I'm like, damn, that's dope.
Yeah,
I'm like, I'll take it, $1,500.
Yep.
A couple months in, like when it really started getting cold out, on startup, I go, I'm like, oh God. I'm like, no, come on.
Another startup.
But like, after it would warm up, it would go away.
Yeah.
Like, okay, well maybe it's just, like, maybe like an exhaust header's got a crack in it.
Right, once the metal expands.
Yeah, I'm like, because like literally, I'd get it on the highway and it'd go away after it would warm up. It'd get to operating temp. I'm like, weird.
No problem.
They last about 9 months.
And then
it
blew up
through a rod or something. I was literally on my way to work. I was driving from Green Bay to Appleton. It's about a 35-minute drive. I'm on the highway. I'm like close to getting off the highway to get on the roads to work.
Yep.
I literally get on the stretch of 441, so it's about, I would say about 5 mile stretch from 441 to the exit here. I get on take that ramp to get on 441, and the thing just starts getting louder and louder. And I'm like, I turned down my music. I'm like, oh God, it's not coming from the music. I was like, oh no, I think this is it. And it just kept getting louder and louder, and the RPMs just started dropping. And I'm just like, oh my God, this is it. I'm like, please just get me to work.
Right.
Like, I limped that poor soul. Like, I got off the exit to get on the road out here. It literally died as I pulled up to the light. I'm like, shit. I'm like, 5th car in line. There's 5 cars behind me. I'm like, I don't want to be that guy. It'll hold up everyone from work. I'm just like, oh, come on. I'm like, I finally got it fired up. It's like it just literally sounds like it's about to fall apart.
Yeah.
I limped that thing like 10 miles an hour into here. It died as I pulled into the lot. I coasted it into a snowbank and I let it sit. Like, I literally came in. I'm like, I need a new car. And I talked to Dakota. He's like, what happened? I was like, come with me. I started it up and I just ripped the piss out of it. I'm like, it's shot. Like, anyway, he was like, he's like, what the hell did you do to this thing? So unfortunately, Subaru doing Subaru things.
Yeah.
Should have known.
Well,
but that's a risk you take.
Yeah.
$1,500 Outback.
It's not that bad.
So yeah, I think those are our horror stories. I think we have enough horror stories here. I think we should take a quick break and then come back and let people know how to effectively buy used cars so they don't find themselves in the same position.
Agree.
So we'll be right back.
So we went through some horror stories. I didn't really have that many, which I don't know if we can talk. Like, we'll do an episode sometime about our first cars because I had some just weird stuff.
Yeah,
not because and everything broke there's no reliable issues I had. It was just like I had some funny situations that
Yeah, we just won't get into about my parents' car that I borrowed. That also blew up.
that was hilarious.
That was not hilarious.
That was super funny. I thought it was hilarious, but we're here to give you guys some tips from people who have bought some used cars, help people buy used cars. I've actually never bought a brand new car. Have you ever bought a brand new car?
Like right off the lot, brand new, like new to that year? No, never.
I haven't done it. So I guess we got an outline here that I'm actually going to follow a little bit. So because we thought of this before. So smart us before silly goofy mood us thought about this. So I guess the one thing is look at the market. Like things can be like really crazy, and like we said before in the intro, like things can be seasonal. So depending on where you live, things can be expensive or cheap depending on the time of year. But also there's like a seller's market, buyer's market. It
is absolutely a seller's market.
Yeah, right now it totally is. I think it's coming down a little bit, but especially if you had
this summer was brutal.
Especially if you had anything fun that was manual.
Yes,
was
like the enthusiast focused cars were going through the roof.
Yeah, well, and anything right-hand drive, I was just like, this is so like I talked so many people out of buying some right-hand drive stuff because like it is not worth $30,000.
Like literally, just wait 6 months.
Yeah,
and it'll be like. Hopefully, I mean, who knows? It could just keep going. But.
Yeah, well, I guess because I think the other thing too is like look at the market and look at what things are going for. Like have a purview of the market. Yeah. And if you see a car you really like, understand if it fits into that theme. Like most of these cars that you're looking at, are they going for $25K? If they are, then maybe it's priced about right. But the other thing too is like I've used this looking at cars of, hey, like I know you're selling this car for $15,000. Here's some other listings in our area for similar cars that are less.
You gotta just come with the facts, don't you?
Dude, prove your metrics. And I've had some good conversations with people because it also allows them to say like, hey, I have a price a little higher because, I haven't seen anything with this low mileage, or it's got some modifications that I do want, or some wheels. Like that's another common thing is,
Yeah, I'll see that too. It's like, hey, this is the price with the wheels. Yep. I'll literally take $2,000 off. If you bring some stock wheels.
That blows my mind when it's like, I got these, whatever brand they are. Yeah. They're like $1,400 wheels. Like, I'll take $2,000 off. You're like, what?
Yeah. Well, probably because they just they know maybe the next car that they're getting lined up, they just bought the wheels and tires. They're like, I want to put this on the next car I own. And they're like, it's not worth going through the hassle of getting something new.
So I think just look at the market. Just understand what people are selling stuff for. And if you're willing to travel, I think that's the other big tip. Like, if you're willing to travel, that really opens up the possibilities because you can do, nationwide searches and, especially for us, things like down south, especially like Texas, Florida, like even like Alabama area, stuff like that, there's way cheaper cars.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I've noticed even northern states, we're talking Wisconsin here, right? Rust is a huge issue. Yeah. So it's anything that's classified as rust free.
Double check that.
Yeah. First of all, double check that. Or don't believe that for
limited rust.
Yeah. Limited rust.
It's classed. Yeah.
Yeah.
It will grow.
If it's just there's rust on the quarter. There's little rust spot on the quarter panel, but all the other stuff rust free. It's no.
The other thing too is I've seen so many people there's a little rust in the fender, and I've then I crawl under the car.
Yes.
And I'm like, how's it look under here? As I'm looking at, they're like, I've never really looked under there, and it's just the brake lines just look like barnacles from SpongeBob. I was like, oh my god, this is terrible.
Yeah, so up here, that's a big thing, right? It's if it actually is really, really clean, it's priced to match.
Yeah. Yep.
Whereas down south, it's not a thing, so it's people can't upcharge for that.
And the only thing down south is sun fade is usually the thing, right. Clear coat issues and stuff.
Yeah, your paint kind of gets thrashed, but I take that over rust any day. Rust
for sure.
Rust will annihilate a car. That'll put it in an early grave.
Yep.
Paint, you can get a respray any day.
Yeah.
That's a super good call. Don't be afraid to travel because, you might spend a couple $100 in gas and a weekend to go do it, but if it's for a way better price and you're going to get a way better vehicle,
you save money down the road.
You're going to save so much more money, and you're going to save a lot of headaches too if you work on your own car.
Yep.
Because that sucks. It really sucks too because it's that is one of the heartbreaking things. Rust will break your heart.
That's actually one of the reasons why I sold my Jaguar was there's a little bit of rust in the rear quarter panel, and the bodywork on those cars is an XJ8 was so expensive because that's the other thing too is if you're looking at a a car that's $20,000 and the original MSRP was $85,000, you are buying $85,000 worth of maintenance.
Yes.
You are not buying a $20,000 car with a maintenance. So things still cost that much, and that's the thing you have to look at. And when you go to look at a car too, I mean, you're going through this is, have your financial situation figured out. Or like set yourself a budget. Like I'm horrible at this. I'm so bad at this.
I mean, I'm pretty sure I think you and Dakota called me on it. It's like, man, every time you show us a car, it's like more money, isn't it? And I'm like, well, yeah, it is, because I just couldn't find anything in that budget.
Yeah.
I had to raise my budget.
And that's set a budget, a realistic one, where like, I'm not here to give financial advice, but
I think we're the worst people at car enthusiasts to take financial advice from.
Car enthusiasts are terrible, but set yourself a budget that you're willing to spend. Yeah. And if you can pay it, and not have to take a loan out, that's ideal. Yeah. Especially if it's for like a fun track car or something like that. Try to do that. If you have to take a loan out, shop around for loans. Yeah. But also there's some places too that will not like let you finance a car over a certain amount of years. You might have to go to different banks and stuff like that. Because I love old like shitty 90s Japanese cars. Mm-hmm. So whenever like when I was younger, I look at like loans. I was like, oh my god, no one's gonna give me a loan for this. Yeah. But, I have that figured out, and that's the most annoying thing too is like bankers hours and stuff like that.
That's awful,
but
dude.
And talk to the seller, because some sellers will be like, nope, cash or nothing. Yeah, like is what it is.
Yeah, I've noticed that, especially like anything. It's either out of stock, or if it's in stock, it's gonna be gone that day. Yeah. Cars are no different right now. I've
put a deposit down. That's
that literally is what it is. When I was looking around for my new daily, I was like, man, there's just nothing out there, and I realized I'm not checking every day. Yeah. And as soon as I started checking every day, I was finding some really good cars. But if I didn't act on it, that next day is gone. Yep. So yes, having those financials ready to go is absolutely key, because it was to the point where it was like I was reaching out. I'd see a vehicle pop up. I'd reach out to the dealership and be like, hey, I just have some questions on some things. Mm-hmm. They wouldn't even respond.
No, they're like, yeah, we'll sell it today.
This guy offered me like the money I was asking for, so piss off. But yeah, it's if you got cash, let them know you have the cash.
That's a huge.
And if you're even slightly interested, if you can really see nothing wrong, if everything checks out, see if you can put down like a couple $100 to show them that you're truly interested. If it's through like a dealership or something, you're getting a loan, get a pre-approved loan. If you want to go through your own financials, you don't have to go through the financials that the dealerships offer. No. When I bought my F1, I went through a credit union back home. Yep. And I just basically I got pre-approved. Here's the paperwork. They're like, oh, awesome, makes our lives easy. And I was out the door with the car that day. Yep. They absolutely love that. It's super easy to work with, and it lets you, or it helps prevent against it getting sold out from under you, because
that's the biggest thing is it's one thing to show your interest. I've had so many people when I've sold cars like, oh, I'm gonna come by it tomorrow, and no call, no show, like just don't do anything.
And I guess with that too, it's like Facebook Marketplace I think has dominated.
That's how I've just looked for used cars now.
I don't know about you, but I don't remember the last time I've typed in Craigslist.com, because it's just obsolete. I feel like, I'm sorry if
it's hard to. Facebook is so easy to get in touch with people. Also, you can judge the people you're buying or selling from, because you can go to the profile and just be like, wow, like this
Craigslist is a little scary.
Yeah, when it comes to cash and bringing cash, like when I bought my 240, I brought cash, and I remember, I'm not young, but my mother was very concerned that I was bringing cash.
You're meeting a stranger online.
Exactly. Like, oh my gosh, you met him on a forum? Like, because that's literally how it was. And I had my best friend's Pete and actually his wife with me. And we went to buy it, and I had cash, and like I had met the guy previously. Yeah. And I think that's the other thing too, is like, if you're going to look at the car, go the first time. Maybe like if you have the money with you, that's great. But if you have the ability to not buy it right there and think about it, or have them think about it and throw them a price, that helps too.
I think touching on the Facebook thing too, how easy it is to contact, and they make it really easy. Don't use the damn quick responses.
Is this still available?
Yeah, is this still I mean, I see more and more people are in their ads even if you message me, is this still available? I'm not going to respond.
How has the metaverse not decided to change those yet?
I don't know, because it's become like a meme at this point, right? I just recently sold the FRS, and dude, the amount of quick responses, and it was like, oh, sorry, I didn't even mean to send that. I was just looking at your ad. And it's like, yeah, so it's to the point where it's like, I wouldn't respond to those messages because I was just tired of getting people like, oh, no, I wasn't really serious. I hit the thing by accident. Or it's like,
they just flake out.
Honestly, yeah. So like as a seller, right, know that like if those auto responses come through, you're more than likely either it's not going to come back, you're not going to get a response same day or at all.
They're not serious.
So like literally just message them as a person like, hey, saw your car, really interested, had a couple questions, or maybe when can I come check it out? Or I'm really interested, I'd be interested in putting a couple $100 down. Could you save it for me?
Yeah, show your interest. If you're really interested, show it right away. If you're not that interested, you can say like, hey, I have a question, or be upfront. Just be honest with people.
Yeah, just be human.
Yeah,
like,
so
I think, like I said, Facebook made it really easy. Just like, oh yeah, I'm just tapping things now. You're not even like, it's like you're talking to somebody.
Yeah.
And that's how it feels as a seller. It's like, well, they're not even going to be.
Yeah, also know what you're looking at, because if you are looking at a 240 that doesn't have a hood and there's no glass and there's a missing fender,
I'm just looking at.
I know Josh's got a nice car, but if you're looking at something that's very questionable, don't like ask all these questions. Like, does it have this? It's probably a halfway finished project, and that's what you're going to get, and you need to be okay with that. Because as a seller of like modified cars, it's really annoying when someone is like asking for all these records and all this stuff, and you're like, man, like I don't have it. Like who keeps this? If you're looking for that, you should probably be looking at a dealer's lot.
Exactly. That's very, very true. Like, I mean, just not to like throw S chassis out there, but like if you're like looking for S chassis,
throw them under there. But
you're absolutely right. It's like you can't go into like an S chassis market looking for an S13 right now and be like, are there scratches?
When are the oil changes done?
Yeah, when are the oil changes? Like, how many owners has it had? Is there any modifications? It's like it has all of it.
Yeah.
It's probably been repainted 10
this shit's
times.
fucked.
It's on its third engine. The frame rails have been patched. The doors are off of a different car. This front end's been swapped to an S14. Like it's a conglomeration of things. Yeah, no.
Or my favorite question, I know some guys have asked, like or people put in their ads for S chassis, like never drifted. I'm like, by you or the other 6 owners? Like,
then why are the doors white? Or like, why are the quarter panels over fendered but not the front ones? Like,
I think with that though, kind of going to the next step is like to do your research. Yeah. So if you are just looking for a car,
as cliche as it sounds,
but like really research. And what by research I'm talking about your chassis specific or like model year set.
Yeah, because
I research.
Yeah, I ran into this too. I knew Dakota a couple of years ago had that Volkswagen. He had the Jetta Sportwagon.
Yeah.
He absolutely loved that car. But what he ran into, and he kind of knew about it going in, and he was fine with that because he got it for a really good deal.
Yeah.
With those cars specifically, the turbo diesels, at like 100,000 miles, they have to be serviced. They have to have the timing chain replaced and the water pump replaced, which is like a $2,000 job on those vehicles. And it's like you all of a sudden you no longer wonder why everyone that you find is at like 98,000 miles. And it's like, especially with things like Carvana and things like that now, where it's just like so easy to buy.
For people to
it's almost kind of because it's like I was looking, like literally everyone was ditching like 98,000 miles, and if it wasn't a turbo diesel, it was like the regular like 1.8s with automatic transmissions that need to be serviced at 120,000 miles, and they're ditched at like 150.
Yeah.
So it's like, not saying like it's intentional, but
I think a lot of it is. Yeah.
Like the people who ditched them, they know. But they could care less of who it goes to if they're selling it to the dealership or like Carvana or like whatever it is.
And sometimes people will price it where they know this service is coming, so you will get a better deal sometimes, because it like just before this whole crazy seller's market happened, I would see people post cars that had known reliability issues at certain mileages. Be like, hey, you're going to have to do the service. That's why the price is where it is and it's lower. But you still have to do that service. Yeah. So you're not buying it, and don't be like, oh, I hope I'm going to get lucky, and I'm going to have the unicorn that doesn't have its timing chain snapped.
Exactly. So. And like I said too, what kind of touching back on the other thing, it's like I'd find one and I'd reach out to the dealership or reach out to the personnel and like, hey, has the timing chain been replaced on this? Never hear a thing back, and it was sold like a week later.
That.
And it was like they were just like, no, it's not. But if I tell you that you're not going to buy it anyway, so I'm just going to sell it to the 5 people that are waiting to buy it, because they need a car.
Yeah, it's tough,
And there's a lot of things out there like that. I like, this one kind of hits home because like I literally like a month or 2 months I was looking for a vehicle and I was like, what am I gonna get?
And you find something within your price range, you like, I'll Google reliability.
Yeah,
and it's
like,
boy.
oh, well, no, from 2013 to 2015, which are the only ones of that are for sale right now, had this issue at this miles, and all of them were like that. So, yes, super, super important. Do your research. It can be super frustrating because it's like, oh my God, all these cars are just piles of shit. Like, it's like, there are the gems out there.
And the wonderful thing about the internet is you can do this research so easily.
Yes.
If you find the Facebook groups or forums, don't ask the question, search for it, because I'm sure someone's put it out there. Because you don't want to be the guy in like,
hey, I got an RX-8.
Are they reliable?
It won't hot start. What's the issue?
Yeah.
Your seals are gone, but I hate to tell you.
Do your research, but don't ask the easy questions. Like put in the effort,
Yeah.
search, because if you are interested in like an RX-8 and you go and you jump into those groups and you ask the really obvious question that's been asked 1,000 times before, that community is going to turn you away from that car because you're going to be like, wow. These guys are jerks.
It's like, and then it's like, oh, those cars suck. Why would anybody buy those cars? It's
terrible.
like, well, it's because it's the lack of research.
Yeah.
People jump in without knowing what they're getting into, and then that just gets that stigma. Which is unfortunate because I love my RX-8.
It's a dope car. I think the next one we had here was don't buy the first vehicle you find unless it checks every box.
Yes.
Which
I think that okay. So it's been ingrained in me like.
This,
and I don't know if it's coming from my mom, whatever it is. It's like when we were looking for houses, when we were looking for cars, it's like, you can't buy the first one. Don't buy the first one. You can't fall in love with the first one.
You could.
And it's like, you could.
Yeah.
If it absolutely checks every box.
Because I've done that multiple times.
I'm also very impulsive and have done that multiple
times. Why are we giving advice for some... Okay. But don't do as we do as we say.
Yeah.
Wait. I don't know. However
Decipher that as you wish.
Yeah. So, okay, here's the moral of the story. If you want a 350Z,
yes,
and you go look at 350Z and you're like, oh my God, this is amazing. You've never driven one before. Drive another one. Like, don't just drive one of whatever, and that'd be the first one, because you might drive one and then you drive another one and be like, whoa, that first one was weird. Yeah. Like, something felt loose about it. Yeah. And I don't know, you'll get to know more. Just be patient. If you're in a pinch, sometimes you're stuck with that.
You can't. That card's not in your favor, right?
Yeah.
But it's like, if you have the option, if you're not in a rush, if you're looking to really find that one, and that first one is like,
it depends on your criteria. Because if you're like,
it's like,
I need this year, this color, manual transmission, you might not have the ability to buy or look at others.
Right. But yeah, if that first one, if you have the time, and that first one is like a couple boxes missed, keep looking.
Oh, the other thing too is like, if you want to test drive something, sometimes people don't want you to test drive their car because you got to have the cash. And all that. Like if you're like, man, I'm really interested in a Miata, but I hear they're slow or whatever. Like, go find someone or one of your friends. Like, ask around. Be like, hey, is there anyone who has a Miata? I'm interested in buying one, but I want to like drive one or whatever.
Yeah, just give me a ride.
Yeah, go for a ride. You don't have to drive it. You can go for a ride, and that's a good way too to see if you like something or not before you're like down the rabbit hole of trying to buy it. The other thing too is like test drive it. Like, this sounds really dumb, but like right now people can sell cars so fast that they are restricting like, only test drive cash in hand, which is totally reasonable. But I've literally gone to dealerships to test drive a car, and they're like, oh, we're not doing test drives. And I'm like,
how is that a thing?
What?
Yeah.
And like, how? Like, if you can't test drive it, red flag.
Yeah.
If the guy's like, hey, you can go for a ride, that's fine too. Like, you don't have to drive the car to like know what's wrong with it. Like my 240, I didn't take it for a test drive, went for a ride, because anyone selling those, it's, just kids looking to just go get a drift car.
Yeah.
But everything checked out, is no problem.
Yeah. I was pleasantly surprised. I've bought 2 cars from dealerships now, the FRS and now the BMW that I have.
Yep.
The FRS, I was 22 at the time. Literally walked into my lunch break to a dealership and was like, hey, the orange FRS that's out there, can I get some more info on it? We're like, oh yeah, here's the keys, just give me your license and go have fun.
Oh, so
I was like, no one needs to come in there. No, go drive it. I'm like, okay. Like, thought that was like kind of weird, but I was about it, And then even we went and did the BMW. My mom was actually with me, but they were just like, "Oh yeah, here's your keys. Go drive it. Just return it, whatever. Let me know if you have any questions." And my mom was like, "They just let you take vehicles now?" And I was like, "I guess I've never had any different experience." But
I've had.
But I have heard stories like I think Dakota, for instance, ran into issues where he was looking for a Supra.
Yeah.
And he'd walk into dealerships or he'd contact dealerships like, "Hey, I'm coming down tonight," and they're like, "Oh, okay." He walks in, they're like, "Oh yeah, it's right there. I have to go take care of something though. Just let me know if you have any questions about it."
He's like, "I want to test drive it."
He's like, "I want to test drive it," and they're like, "Well, we can't do that."
Yeah.
He's like, "What?"
It's when I bought my Mustang, the guy had to come. He's like, "I have to go with you." I was younger, like I don't know, early 20s, mid 20s, whatever, and looking at a Mustang, the V8, getting some big sick 20s on it, and the guy. He's like, "Yeah, I got to come with you to the test drive." I was like, "That's fine." And it was kind of weird at first. And then the guy he's like, "Dude, you should get on it."
Yeah.
And I was like,
and it's usually how it goes, right? Like, yeah.
We're good now.
Yeah. If someone says like they need to come with you, it's like, I wouldn't say it's a red flag. If they let you test drive and be like, "Hey, can I just ride with you though?" Like, just be like, understand that.
Yeah.
It's like they probably put a lot of time into that car. They've owned it for a while. They care about that car. They just don't want some random person to come and mess it up. So
I think the next one we have in here is contact immediately. We kind of talked about it, but just if you are interested in buying a car, the other thing is like be careful about how many ads you're responding to.
Right.
Because you focus on a couple and give them the attention you can because you want to be able to respond quickly.
Yeah, don't just spam like I'm interested.
Because if they all respond back to you,
but then you're in a pickle.
Yeah, you're in a big pickle.
Then you're pissing a lot of people off. It's like, well, why did you message me if you're going to see 5 other cars?
Especially if you do a couple of them, and you might not be the first guy. Someone's like, "Hey, someone is interested." So many deals fall through.
Yeah.
Where if you are reliable and you talk to people, like a human, I was selling my old F-150 once, and this kid, he was the nicest person like through messages. He came up to the truck. He was kind of interested. The price was a little high. He said for him, I had a brake line end up blowing out, and I was like, "Man, I don't want to fix this." I was like, he was super nice and like responsive. Yeah. I texted him. I was like, "Yo, dude, I'll give you a hell of a deal on this because the brake line went out. What are you like? Are you cool with it?" And he's like, "Yeah, man, I appreciate it." And he came and bought the truck. And it's like, just be courteous, be respectful.
Absolutely, and that does go a long way. I know that like I went down in my asking price a couple $1,000s on the FRS because the guy was so nice.
Yeah.
He's like, "Hey, I just want to come check it out." Like,
this is us being Midwest nice.
Yeah, so. It really is. And it was to the point where I was like, "I'm just ready to store the car for the winter. I'll try again in the spring to sell it." And he was like, "Hey, I'm really, really interested in it. Can I please come check it out?" And he's like, I know you probably have it put away." I'm like, "No, it's fine. Like it hadn't really snowed yet or anything." I'm like, "Yeah, come check it out." And I could tell how much he just truly enjoyed the car, and I'm like,
you appreciate that.
I'm done with it. I know it's gonna go to a good home.
Yeah.
I said like, "Here's what I'm asking for," which is already a little lower than when I originally listed for it. And he came back just a little bit lower, and he's like, "Would you do this?" I was like, "Yeah, I'll do it." Because of the pre-existing conversation was so like professional.
That's we don't have that on here, but when it comes to talking about price, so before we get to our last one, when it comes to talking about price. Go in, like, have your budget set, like, know what a car is worth.
Yes.
Like, don't go in and just be like, "Oh, it's a BMW, it's got to be expensive," because not really.
The case, no.
But, be confident in what you're, hey, there's Mandy, she's leaving. She's in one of our videos before. Be courteous. So if someone has a car listed for $10K, don't like some people like here and offer 5. Not going to name names, but anyways,
Josh.
No, Josh.
Oh, okay. Thank God. I was like,
no. You know who you are. But be reasonable, but also understand like if someone has something overpriced, sometimes it might be because there's sentimental attachment to the car.
Absolutely.
Just don't. If you're gonna sell a car, don't do that. Like that. It's really tough to argue with. "Oh, it was my dad's car," and it's like, I'm sorry, I'm not paying for your dad's memories.
Yeah.
Like this is a '68 Mustang that this is what it's worth just because your dad had it, unless your
it's
dad was Carroll Shelby.
At that point, just hang on to it.
Yeah, but the thing is like be respectful because that first offer, I told you this story about the guy who offered me too little, and I'm just gonna say it.
Oh yeah.
So. I was selling my Mustang, and this guy, he was messaging me relentlessly. He was interested in the car. He was asking a ton of questions, good questions. I was like, all right, he's an informed buyer. So I was like, yeah, this is great. And he goes, well, what are you looking to get for it? And I was like, here's, the asking price, shoot me an offer. Because I'm open to wheeling and dealing. And I think I was offering asking like 10.5 for it, which was a pretty good deal for what it was. And he came back and I think he was offering like 5 or 6. Like it was like nowhere close.
Crazy low.
And I would have taken 10. And that was, I think, a really good deal. I was just trying to get rid of the car.
Yeah.
And he ended up coming up because he's like, hey, I said, nope, it's not going to work. You got to come up. And he's like, I don't have the cash right now. And I was like, that's fine. Like, I come up with it. And he's like, all right. Final offer is like $6,500 or $7,000. Like it was still like 30% off. Yeah. And he was like, man, I don't have the money right now. I love the car. And I was like, hey man, if you save up, maybe it'll still be for sale, but I don't have it. And he started getting like snippy. He's like, yeah, but I told you I don't have the money. This is the best I can do. Would you take it?
I was like, no.
And I was like, no. And he's like, yeah, man, but like I love the car. So I was like, he's like, I really want a V8 Mustang. So I went on Auto Trader and I typed in V8 Mustang in his price range and I sent him a link and said, here are cars you can afford. I was like, oh, that was like the most like toxic thing I did. But
done.
Yeah, I was just like,
leave me alone.
I was like, look at these. But yeah, and know how to negotiate too. Like
like you can't go in and expect to get like a $5,000 deal.
Yeah, don't watch Pawn Stars and be like, all right, we'll split the difference. I'm offering 5, you're asking 10, we'll meet in the middle. Like that's not how it works.
And I think which leads us to like the last
This
point.
is a doozy
and it's kind of a big one. Yeah, modifications.
Because I love modified cars.
Yeah, we all do. And it's like, but they can be a true tell of how that car was taken care of, who the owner was, and how long it's going to last.
So I would say if you're looking at a car and it has Anovia wheels on it, the owner is probably amazing. The car's probably well taken care of. Clearly good taste.
Yeah.
So
taste.
I would just buy. I'd have offer him double.
Make sure the wheels are on the right way though.
Yeah.
If they're on the wrong way, run.
No. Yeah. No good. So yeah. With that said though, like there are some modifications that I kind of look out for. So wheels is probably one of the big ones where if they are really questionable wheels, like maybe they're very cheap wheels or something like that, it's usually a pretty good telltale sign of the rest of the car, unless they're just throwing some burners on to sell it. But if there's some very nice like wheels with good fitment, usually in the ad, I'm like, okay, take a look. Body kit is another one. If it's got a kit on it and it's like a legit kit, usually it's like, all right, they kind of know what they're doing. The biggest red flag for me though is, or there's 2 things: engine swaps, or aspiration. So if it was an NA car and now all of a sudden it's got turbo, it's like, oh boy, like this is a big deal. Mm-hmm. And the engine swaps, I'm looking at you Subarus. How many ads have you seen for Subarus or I should say like STIs or Evos where it's like only the 3rd engine, like.
Or, I mean, they throw out their rotaries too. I mean, how many RX-7s I've looked at, it's like, fresh rebuild, making about 700 horsepower, upgraded seals. We got, big single turbo on it. Only about 300 miles on it. I'm like, why are you ditching it at 300 miles if they're a fresh rebuild after you stuck all that money into it?
And I think too, it's like, if someone puts cheap parts on it, but they like, a shop did it and they have receipts from the shop. Yeah. That's fine, but the shop still put cheap parts on there. Yeah. So
it can be a really hit or miss thing, and it's really, really important.
You kind of, I'm terrible at this. I bought 2 cars with engine swaps.
Yeah, what the hell?
Okay. So make sure it's done right. It's the first one. Only one of those is blown up, by the way.
But it's not a bad track record. Oh my God.
You got to know what you want though, because sometimes you might be looking like, I don't know, say you want an S chassis with an SR in it. Yeah. Josh you can't say anything either. That's what you did. But he doesn't have a microphone, so he can't defend himself. But you got to know what you're looking for, because sometimes you do want something that is heavily modified, or there's nothing other that's stock. Because like we keep talking about 240s because they're like the internet meme right now. But if you're looking for a stock 240, it's going to cost like $30,000. Like it's going to be insane. But you know what you want. Sometimes stuff is tastefully modified, or there's old parts you can't buy anymore, and it's a cool kit or something that you can't get. So
I think the biggest things there is look at what parts are on it. Look at the quality of it. Look at the quality of the installation. Did they do it themselves? Did they have someone do it? Depending on did they do the engine swap themselves, or did they have a shop do the engine swap? Who's the shop?
And if they have paperwork is king.
Paperwork's king
and
too.
Photos,
keep your receipts, keep your photos. Have like some sort of timeline of everything that happened. Because the more of the story you can tell with the car, the more comfortable that.
Ask questions. Ask the hard questions, because you could ask someone like, "Oh, when was this done?" And they'd be like, "I don't know." And like you can start getting red flags easily. The one thing I love though is when someone has like a Fox body Mustang and it's like somewhat modified and they're like car is fast, and in the description they have time slips from the drag strip and it's like an 11-second time slip and you're like, this car parties. Like this is legit. Like that's always my favorite is when someone's like, yeah, it's pretty fast, and you see it like a picture of a time slip with like a greasy hand holding it. You're like, oh, this thing gets down.
Yeah, this thing has been around and seen some things.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too is like if it's modified, you can usually like, depending on how it's modified, someone may have driven it harder, or you know it might have been abused. Like I know with IS300s, the transmissions aren't the. If you can find a manual transmission one, they're usually not the strongest thing. So it's that history is important.
Yeah, I think it comes down to you use your best judgment.
Yeah,
like if something seems fishy.
Are there any mods gels that you would totally run away from?
Totally run away from?
Yeah, like if the car looks great and you see a mod listed, what would you run away from?
Usually, if it's supposed to have, as if it's like a Japanese car and it's LS swapped, immediately out, immediately ditch it. I'm not with that.
Yeah.
Because it's usually just some truck motor pulled out of a scrap yard and half, installed with
not done right
with just parts that work.
Yep.
Right. Otherwise, I would say, oh God, what is one that it's like absolutely a no-go? Good question.
I usually, if it was an NA motor and it's boosted in some way or supercharged, I'm just like, nope.
Yeah, unless it was like some sort of like well-known kit. So it's like for like BRZ.
Yeah, if it's
if it was like a JDL2 like turbo kit or something like that, like something like really like well known. Okay, maybe I'll go take a look at it. We'll see, what it's going on there. But yeah, I'd say probably the same. Any like engine swap that's not supposed to be in there, not common, just out. Yeah, and then the aspiration, if it was switched over, and seems pretty sketchy, like, oh yeah, running 20 pounds on stock internals.
Yeah,
it's like,
when you're bragging about that, it's like, nah. Or like the other thing too, I'll run away from is if it's like some like it's boosted, but like things seem right, and they're like, yeah, stock ECU. I'm like, I don't know.
Or tuned by a buddy of mine. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. All right. Well, I think we got across what we got there. So
let's just recap. So basically, right now it's a seller's market, so it's crazy. Know what you're looking at. Have a budget. Get your financials in order ahead of time. Figure out what you can afford, cash, loan, get that figured out. Do your research. If find out if that sort of car or model has specific problems or an Achilles heel, don't buy the first one, unless you're Sam or Gels, apparently. We've done that. Contact someone immediately. So get a hold of them, be a person, like have a good dialogue with them. And mods, be careful, just watch out.
All right. Well, I think it's a good list. I think, coming from, like I said, having to go through this recently, it's kind of frustrating. It's kind of a nightmare right now, but you can get through it, and you can find some pretty good cars out there.
What's one piece of advice you want to give to the people if you had one piece of advice?
Just don't give up. Like, just be persistent with it. It's going to take some time. Like, I think to be able to find like the BMW that I found, like I'm very picky when it comes to cars now, just because obviously my past. So, they are out there. You can find them. Just hold out for them, and you have to be persistent. Check daily. Check a couple times a day if you need. If you're really, really, adamant about buying something, you just have to, like anything, put in the work to do it. So,
I'd say for me is don't always listen to like your friends on the internet.
Right. Yeah.
Where it's like if your friend's like, well, that's way too much for that, or I can't believe you pay that, but like if it's what you really want. Sometimes like you're going to pay more. I know we've talked about how to like not really how to get a good deal, but like how to not get in trouble. But know that sometimes if you really want something, you're gonna have to pay for it. Yeah. And buy the car you want. Don't buy the car that your friends say is cool or is the most reliable and practical.
That's a very good point that I don't think we covered.
Because honestly, I've bought cars that I love. Like I love my 240, but it's got like a couple issues. I don't care. Right. Like it's like whatever.
That's what you want.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Buy a car for yourself, not for others. I like it. All right, and I think Josh, to wrap this up here, you wanted to.
Oh yeah, you had a question you wanted to ask us.
I think a would you rather kind of question or something to close us out on a high note.
Let me see.
Or a low note. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see what kind of question.
Okay. Would you rather fight 100 duck-sized horses or one horse-sized duck?
All right. Are we unarmed?
Yes.
What you got right now?
Well, I have Sam and a water bottle and a camera.
I'd probably go with 100 duck-sized horses or what it was.
Yeah.
I mean, like, seriously, like, that's not a very,
Picturing that.
that's like, okay, I have a miniature wiener dog. Like, that's kind of like the size
Stanleys.
of Stanley. And like, 100 of those horses, like, you could squash them. Or like kick them. Like, they're all at ankle level. Like, there's no vitals around there.
I mean, horses are pretty big. That's a big duck. And I'm just saying, like, the size of the bill on that sucker. That's going to be
or its wings.
Just like swallow me whole.
It's just heavy. Like, it could crush you. Like, 100, like, yeah, you'd be fine.
Yeah, I'm going to take the 100, duck-sized horses. I'll take that.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
Oh my goodness.
We did it!
We did it. So, thank you guys so much for listening?
For watching or
Yeah, so
listening.
if you're watching this on YouTube, thank you guys so much for watching. If you listen to this wherever you listen to podcasts, thank you so much for listening. We're looking forward to doing this. Got another episode coming out probably really soon here.
Yeah.
Or if they might already be out.
We have a lot to talk about.
Yeah. So, and of course, check out Anovia Wheels, noviawheels.com. There's a bunch of cool stuff over there. Follow our YouTube and all of our socials and stuff like that. And of course, just let us know if there's any topics you'd like us to cover next.
Yeah.
Or if you guys have any ideas for, future episodes or anything like that. But I'm Chels.
I'm Sam.
Thank you guys for listening.